I'd like to call this February 18th regular board meeting of the Board of Education of Medina City Schools to order. This meeting of the Board of Education in public is for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public comment during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, there he is. Mr. Chambers, if you please call roll.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Ms. Parkers?
Here.
Ms. Pritchard?
Here.
Ms. Smoyer?
Here.
Mr. West?
Here.
Thank you.
Mr. Chambers? May I have a motion? I would entertain a motion for the approval of the January 23rd regular meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 23rd meeting.
Richard?
I'll second.
Mrs. Smoore? Any questions, comments? Anyone? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Smoyer?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Abstain.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Sable, Superintendent Communications.
I think first we need to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, sorry.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Sorry. My bad.
I'll second.
Mr. Chambers.
Any additions or removals? Thank you. Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Smoyer?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Mr. Sable.
Well, I'm happy I could make it tonight. Tonight, I'd first like to welcome up Sydney Fenn and Principal Perry for this month's building presentation.
Good evening, everyone. We're so glad that we are here. I think we brought the whole school pretty much. Well, no, not quite, but we're so glad, and I'll tell you who's here in just a minute. So one thing we want to talk about as we present here tonight, if I can figure this out, is we really value the importance of school and community connections. We talk a lot about deeper learning. We talk about curriculum. But we really feel like all those things really can't happen and can't take place if we don't connect with our community. And that's our goal. So as you look up here, I'll briefly kind of cover these. As we look at transactional, it's that most basic level of one-way communication that we send out to our families and our community. I think we all do that. That should be a basic part of communication. Then you've got the collaborative piece where we will involve some more participation from both the school and community members. And it's working together on projects, sharing resources, and you're going to hear about some of that tonight. And then really the integrated part is deepening that school-community relationship. When it comes down to it, we want our families and our parents, as every administrator does, we want them in our schools. We want them to feel connected. We want them to feel that they're as big of a part of the education as our teachers are and our students are. And we're going to get there, and we do that by, again, valuing their opinions, but also trying to partner with them as much as we can. So what we're going to share with you tonight, as we talk about our Portrait of a Bee competencies, we'll continue looking for ways to collaborate and integrate with our community. So tonight you're going to hear from our youngest group, which is our kindergarten, And you're also going to hear from our oldest group, which is our fifth graders. And they have some exciting things to share. And I'm going to have Mrs. Alm cannot be here tonight, but Miss Cirincione, Mrs. Szynski, and Mrs. Rowley, they're going to bring kindergarten up to talk about some deeper learning, but even more than that, talk about how they are connecting with different resources in the community and beyond to really deepen education at Sydney Fenn. So kindergarten. Hi. So right here.
Yep. Perfect.
Here we go.
Hello, we are the Fenn kindergarten team, and today we're presenting our unit we did all about farms, and we will also have a little demonstration with our little friends here. So I'm going to pass it off to Lacey, and she's going to kind of go through the 4 different stations we had the OSU extension run at each of our classrooms.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Worley. We brought some friends with us today in OSU to show you some of the fun things we did. So the first classroom we had, the kids got to act out some things and learn about what a farmer's job was. Kaylee Keller, a real farmer from Keller Meats, came and got to talk with the kids. We also had a station for crops for food, where they got to plant and practice doing some jobs with crops. We learned about a bunch of different animals, so they did animal needs. And the one we're going to be acting out for you tonight is what we did from farm to table. So we have some friends. We have William, Quinn, Reagan, and Charlotte. And we're going to let our ladies from OSU come up and show you our fun life cycle of a carrot.
Right. You guys excited? Yeah. Yes.
Okay, you guys ready to be carrots? All right, so we talked about how carrots come. Where do we get carrots from? The farm. We have to do what with them? We have to grow them. Okay, so I'm gonna throw your seeds at you. Are you ready? You're gonna catch them. 1, 2, 3, catch them. Hold them tight. Okay, now we're gonna have you two right up front. Come on over here. Yep. And we're gonna plant you. All right, we're planting you. You got it, Ashley?
Work the soil, plant our garden.
What do we need to grow carrots, though? Water. So we're gonna give you the water. Now you're gonna grow. All right, now we're gonna pluck you. Ready? We're gonna pluck you from the soil. Look, look, and you're a carrot. And what do we need to do next with our carrot after we pull it from the ground? Remember, what do we need to do? Do we need to bring them to get cleaned? Yeah. All right, so drive your carrots on over to our conveyor belt. Good job. All right, now can you pick up your carrots? And now we have to clean you. So can you lay down? Your feet will go right here. Yep, just like that. All right, and we're gonna roll. Ready? We're gonna clean you. Roll that. Roll, roll. Your carrots are so dirty. All right, now come on up. And now, what do we have to do? We cleaned you up. We're gonna put you in a bag and take you where? Where do they go next? To the store. To the store. All right, get in our truck. We're gonna drive to the grocery store. Are you ready? Yeah. All right, we're driving, and then you're right here at the grocery store. Now your guys' turn. Come on over.
Got your seeds still?
Grab your seeds.
Come and plant you. Into the soil. We need sunshine and what else? Water. You're grow.
Oh, you grow. All right, now what do we do? What do we do? Pluck you. Ready?
You harvest.
Pluck. Good job. Carrot peel. Carrot peel. Great. Now hold on. We didn't bring our truck back to our One for you. What about you? You gonna try? How about just hold it? Like a carrot? All right, good job, guys.
We're gonna take our carrots back to their houses.
So that is our kindergarten group. If we can have a round of applause for them. So if you haven't noticed, first of all, it takes a special person to be a teacher. It takes a really special person to be a kindergarten teacher. And I think you can see that hands-on approach, and it was even more in-depth actually in the classroom. I think if we had a couple hours, we would give you the whole experience. So that hands-on approach is just so powerful, and the kids just did an amazing job, as well as the extension, as well as our teachers, so thank you. Now we have our 5th grade coming up. And our 5th grade, well, I want to speak for you, so we'll just, teachers, if you can come up, introduce yourselves, and then we'll find out what they're going to present tonight.
Hi, I'm Lauren Labe, and I have the opportunity to teach these amazing 5th graders. And Mrs. Kaufman, she teaches the math and social studies, or science, and I teach the social studies and language arts, and Miss Wasson also teaches math and science. So the first 2 kiddos are just gonna talk to you about, we've really focused on some cool collaboration with parents and families coming in. As a 5th grade whole, we hold meetings every week as teachers, and we love it because we're able to share common planning time and come up with some really cool activities. We all know one idea together, put more heads together and you come up with the best ideas. So these are some of the projects that we're doing at Fenn, but they are done district-wide in 5th grade. So they're gonna tell you about them.
To celebrate the end of our poetry unit, we hosted a poetry cafe for our families to see our poems. We picked our favorite one to share with adults as they visited our tables. Some of us shared our poem with the entire audience. We are currently learning about the Renaissance era. During this era, William Shakespeare became famous as a poet and playwright. We learned that Mrs. Luthold's freshman class was also learning about Shakespeare. We partnered with a class of freshmen to exchange Shakespearean friend Valentines with quotes from Shakespeare. Then we had a Google Meet to open our Valentines together. He kind of died.
Do you want to put it up here? Do you want to hold it there?
He's okay. Okay, now we're going to share our science project we've been working on.
Our classmate's father, Mr. Baker, works for NASA. He came to our classroom to teach us about how NASA uses observatories to learn more about galaxies, stars, and planets. We think that Mr. Baker is a great astronomer, and he helps us be better astronomers ourselves. We were excited to begin our research.
At the beginning of the alien project, we got to choose what planet we wanted to research about. We started off the project by reading books about our planet and writing down notes we thought would be helpful. We got many sites to research from, such as some NASA websites. We used our notes to write our passports with the information about our planets and our aliens. After we finished the research for our planets, we got together in little groups to collaborate and make an alien. Each of our groups brought in materials from home to use to create the alien. Each feature on our alien must help it live on its planet. Each alien is different, and each alien is very creative. This is our alien from Neptune. His name is Glacius, and these are some of his features. So he has fur to keep him warm because he lives on Neptune, and it's very cold there. From negative 330 degrees to negative 350 degrees. He also has a cloak to keep him warm because it's very cold. It's got these little gems that bring in heat from the sun. And he's got a tail that helps him keep balance because this Neptune's surface is made of mostly gas.
And then our alien has these antennas because Neptune, being very cold, is also very stormy. So these antennas help him listen for storms, and they also help him pick things up because he has no arms. And then he has a bow tie to, when he comes to Earth, he will make a nice fashion statement. And then these markings on his forehead, the little gems right there, they're to show his type of alien or where he is from.
And then my alien, Bob Jr. down there, kind of fell apart, so this is his little balloon hand to help him get into craters on Mercury easily without hurting himself. Wait, no, to get out. The parachute on his head helps him get in the craters, because the craters can be deep. And the tinfoil skin helps reflect the light from the sun when it's super hot so he doesn't burn to a million ashes. And then when it's closer to getting dark, it can also preserve the heat for when it's really cold out to help him stay warm. He also has a little orange tube around his neck because since there's like no oxygen on Mercury, he uses it to help get oxygen so he doesn't die. And then that's Mr. Bobby. So then we had a welcome to Earth celebration. After we all finished our aliens on Friday the 21st, we will be having a welcome to Earth celebration for our aliens. Parents can come and see our aliens. We all will present our aliens to everyone and all that we learned about the planet. We also have a passport, this thing, to present that everyone has their own passports, unlike the alien that each group made. The passport tells facts about the planet and a little bit about the alien. This is Bob Jr. Down there.
This is Addison Boner. He's presenting Skype a Scientist.
Hello, I'm Addison, and we've been doing Skype the Sciences. We've done it twice this school year. It's been a lot of fun. Our most recent one was with Eliza Oakes. He goes to the University of Connecticut, and he's getting his PhD in astronomy right now. The diagram at the bottom is one of the many diagrams he showed us of stars forming. It starts from a gas and dust cloud, and it goes on to red giants and the supergiants. It keeps getting bigger until it reaches a supernova or a white dwarf. Then it gets smaller or becomes a black hole. In the top right-hand corner, there's a nebula. The nebula is an image called the Pillars of Creation. It's one of the most famous nebulas. On this, we had a lot of questions for him, but he couldn't answer it in all of the time. So our teacher sent questions to him, and he responded with some. Our first Skype the Scientist we did was in October. Her name was Erin Spencer. She has a PhD in marine biology. And she's also a writer. She wrote a book about the coral reefs. The main thing she was showing us was about hammerheads and how they put collars on them to track using radio and radio signals to find where they swim, eat, and the research more about how the hammerheads live. We had so much fun doing the Skype the Sciences. I would really want to do some more for their science. It was a blast, and it really helped us with the subjects
for ecosystems and for our space subject we're doing right now.
Okay, so before you guys leave, I know we have kindergarten here too. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you to our staff, our students, and most importantly, our families for coming out tonight on a cold Ohio night that we should be used to, but we're not. Thank you for spending your time to come out here and share your children with us. And we say the same thing when they come to Fenn. Thank you for sharing your children with us. I heard a blast. I heard fun. And that's what learning should be. Coming from somebody who did not like school at all, I end up becoming a teacher. We want students coming through our doors and through the classroom doors and have fun learning. And if that happens, you're going to see the smiles on their faces and the interaction that you saw tonight. So again, if we could have a round of applause for all of our kindergarten and fifth grade students. And thank you to the board for having us. Do you have any questions either for our kindergarten or fifth graders?
I have a comment. I learned that Neptune is colder than it is here right now. So it could be worse. You all did a wonderful job presenting. Thank you for sharing your time with us and your wonderful projects.
I'd just like to add, I wish when I was in school I would have had, be able to take the different classes or the different topics and apply what we learn and then do something with it. And I must say, for me, the part was the astronomy portion, and I actually studied that in college. So it was a lot of, I didn't learn about a lot of what these kids did until I was about a junior in college. So I recognized the chart that you guys had.
Maybe you could be our next guest presenter.
Maybe. Talk to me later. But thank you very much.
One thing I noticed with the kindergartners especially, number one, that was super cute. Thank you guys for showing us how to be a carrot. But I love that you guys, number one, dressed up. I've been noticing this in all the presentations that dressing up and doing role play is huge, and that is a very good learning perspective. With the fifth graders, the factor of the Skyping with somebody else that is professional, but who is enjoying teaching as well, because we can teach so much, but the factor of somebody in a real life position can, just explore more to it. And the kids, I'm sure, are more excited to meet somebody new as well.
Thank you guys for sharing your passion this evening. It impresses me every month, our students coming up here and sharing and talking to our board and to all of our guests. I know that's something when I was your age, you would have had to drag me to that podium. But the excitement, you come up there and share the information. Sounds like Neptune would have been a cold day today. Thank you very much.
Yes. We're going to head out, if it's okay, in the hallway out here. We'll take a picture of kindergarten and fifth grade. And lastly, if I may, I just want to say I'm so proud of our teachers and our staff. This does take more planning. This takes being creative, and I'm just so proud of them. So thank you for all the work they're doing, too. And thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Kwolek and Mr. Shields. This evening on the agenda for the board's approval, we have our portrait of an educator. We began our portrait process, and I'm looking for Tina out here, but Cindy can answer. It's been maybe 6 years, Cindy, that we've been on the journey of developing our portrait of a bee. Which began with our work with SOAR in Columbus. Our portrait of the bee outlined all of our characteristics and expectations for all of our students as they progress through Medina City schools. Their characteristics that go beyond the academics, and it's the kind of people that our community and our schools expects out of our students, and that's integrated PK through 12. The second phase of that was looking at all of the adults in our district. What kind of competencies and expectations do we have for all the individuals that are working with our students, whether it be as part of transportation, food services, teaching in the classrooms, or serving in our cafeterias, which not only applies to all of our current employees, but a big piece, which I think Jim and Chris are going to share today, is also planning for the future, which is more important than ever with the education shortage that we're currently seeing. But what kind of people do we want to be a part of this special place here in Medina City Schools? And that's what our portrait of an educator is. And before I steal too much, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Shields.
You did a nice introduction there. You took some of my introduction, but I did want to start with focusing on portrait of an educator. When I say educator, it means all 850 of our employees, whether it's an administrator, support staff, or teacher. And that's what, as we went through this process, we focused on every employee, because every employee has a part of portrait of a bee. And we wanted to make sure then all this time and effort we put into a portrait of a bee, we have the right people in place to develop our students in that concept of portrait of the bee. So we started with Patel for kids. It's called HC21, which is Human Capital 21. Human capital, obviously referring to our employees. We started that in the 22-23 school year. There was a team of us that went down to Columbus 4 days, once in the fall and once in the spring. It was myself, Dr. Kwalik, Cindy Grice, Elisa Tedona, Brian Condit, and Mina Pazitka. And one of the great things that, as a side note of developing what we're looking for our employees, is we had a chance to work with other schools from Ohio. We spent a lot of time with Lakota, which is near Cincinnati, but there was also schools from as far away as Mississippi that was there. And it was a great perspective of us sharing their challenges, because besides focusing on what we wanted as an employee, we also talked about some of the challenges facing not only the schools, but the workplace in general. We talked about talent shortages. We talked about teacher retention and staff retention, because more and more we are learning that our universities are telling us there's not as many people enrolling in their education programs. And we're also finding more and more where we have teachers who start the process or start their careers and decide it was not for them and are leaving the profession. So we did spend a lot of time working with the other districts and with Patel to focus on things that we could do. We also spent a lot of time talking about how to attract different generations of employees. I mean, it's not the same as calling people anymore. I can't tell you how many people we call in HR and their mailboxes are full. So it's thinking about texting, thinking about different social media uses, just ways to meet people where they're at to make sure they stay interested in Medina City Schools when we're trying to recruit them to work here. So our team, we spent the 4 days down there, and we slowly started putting together what our team thought a portrait of an educator should look like. And we had a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth. And that was the first step in the process, because eventually our goal was to bring it back to our staff and get their input, and again, all staff. So I'm going to have Dr. Kwalik, after the 6 or 7 of us that were down there came up with what we thought a portrait of an educator was, we then started rolling it out after the 22-23 school year. It would have been the summer of 23. We first started with our administrative staff, took their input, and then once we had their input, then we started, because they do so much of the interviewing to start, the different administrators, so we wanted to start with them and get their input on what they're looking for in an employee. And after we finished that process, then Dr. Kwalik kind of took over, because we specifically planned it this way that HR was involved early on, but then we wanted somebody neutral talking to our staff about what they think in a coworker, or what kind of coworkers they want us to be looking for to hire. So Dr. Kwalik ran this part of the process, and she'll talk about these next steps of how we took input from staff to come up with our final portrait of an educator.
So starting then in the summer of 23, we worked with our district leadership team. So that's the teacher leaders and staff leaders at all levels. We shared our concepts that we had come up with. And I always joke, same thing that happened with our portrait of a bee, they limit you to 6. areas. We in Medina always want 8 or 10, but they really try to limit you to 6 in a scope because you're really looking for these things in detail and you want to use them in different areas that I'll talk about in a little bit. But it was really hard to whittle it down to 6 things that we see in our fellow Rockstar employees, that we see in the bus drivers that our students love, that we see in our custodians that we love to see every day. So we kept it to 6 because, again, that's what they recommend and what's important. So then in the winter of 23, we kind of finalized where we were at. We did some Skype, I want to say Skypes, but Google Meets with all our staff that we invited, and we did have 30 to 40 people attend across all categories and give us some input, and we made some changes based on that. And then we really kind of took some time to repurpose all our efforts, as all of you on the board did, to focus on the levy. So we brought this back kind of this winter. We reintroduced the portrait at all our staff meetings in all our buildings to get feedback and adjust. We made a couple more adjustments in a category, but these 6 things have stayed the same. And so as you see them, these are the 6 things, again, that we asked our employees, what do you want in a Rockstar colleague? And so the 6 are, we want them to be advocates, flexible, critical thinkers, relationship builders, resilient, and reflective. And so when you look at the portrait, just like when you look at the portrait of a bee, they're further defined with lots of words. And so a lot of people have asked, what do you do with this then? And so I think what's important for the board to know is we're going to create interview questions with these that then guide our interviews, because if this is what we want in Rockstar colleagues, then this is what we need to be asking at the interview process. We'll also use this to highlight in evaluations of people. These are what we're looking for, then these are what we're also going to look for in evaluations. We want to start to incorporate these into the awards we give out in the district. So we're going to award people for being resilient, reflective, relationship build. And then finally, we want to make sure that we begin to incorporate this language into how we talk about things, whether it's professional development, training, things we present, so that they become what we look for in staff across the district. So again, we're presenting it tonight to the board to adopt as our portrait of an educator. It'll connect with our portrait of a bee. You can see a lot of those are very similar because, again, if you can't build relationships as an adult, then how can we ask our students to be relationship builders? So they go together in collaboration, and I think we're just really excited to see this work come full circle from where we were at the beginning.
Thank you. I know there's been a lot of time spent on this, and it is nice to see it come to fruition. I know with our portrait of a bee, we always talk about it being our North Star, and it's similar with this too, right? This is our North Star for our employees, and they are. You can see they really tied well together with our portrait of a bee. So thank you to you and to our staff for getting this organized and for us to move forward.
Yeah, we're really excited. And then it'll lead to other. This is just the beginning for us, too, of the process.
I like that the staff was part of this as well, because then that gets buy-in from them as well, rather than it just coming from the management level, if you will. So, and these are all, it matches up pretty well with that over there. So. That's nice to see, and look forward to seeing good things from this, and importantly helping us find good quality talent and retaining it as well.
Yeah, and the 2 big things we got from feedback, you'll see under critical thinking, staff said, it's important for us to have colleagues that have knowledge in their content areas. So we added that, and then the staff input on the big day was we would like people to look at life through a lens of hope. So that was good to hear because it was based on kind of a lot of the work we did in HOPE. So we added that as well. So it was really good. Again, lots of people putting their heads together is much better than just a couple people. So it was great.
When I read this on, I think Friday, or whenever the agenda came out, in relationship building, and I think this is probably going to throw some people, and if this was a question, know students well to scaffold for learning. And when I saw the word scaffold, I'm like, what? We're going to, build a scaffold. And then I went in and looked it up, and I think that's just a great way to put it. And I think that a newer person being interviewed, that if you threw a question out like that, is probably going to throw them initially. But I think that's a great way to word it. So I read it over a couple of times. I think this is really a good framework to work from. So thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And thank you to Mr. Shields and Dr. Kwolek for their leadership with that important process. Last up, I have committee updates. Going to go a little different order from what's listed here. I'm going to invite Mr. O'Cole up first for facilities. I canceled his last facilities meeting for him with a snow day, but we do have a couple items on the agenda relevant to his department to provide a few updates.
You stole my opening too, my goodness. All right, so I am going to go over a couple updates you're voting on them tonight, so I want to make sure that there's no questions about those. The first is it's going to be a fund-to-fund transfer tonight, and this goes back to my learning curve of the new position as business manager and our joint operating agreement at the rec center. So when we agreed to do the pool upgrade and refinish the pool, the board approved the project, and then I failed to realize that then I have to ask the board to move money from the sales tax to the joint operating fund. So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight, is asking for money for 2023. So we're going to be moving $423,617.20, which was our portion of that project. And if you remember back from 2023, the initial bid came in for that project at $1.4 million. We were able to get the project completed for right around $900,000. And the rec center had a few things in there that we did not cover on the 50-50 split, so our portion's a little bit smaller than theirs. The next thing that's on is Canavan roof project for the summer. So we didn't put this in last month's board because we had to come to a better agreement with our roofing, our engineer on the project. So working with him, we got the project where we think we're very pleased with how the bids are going to come out on that project and the ability to get local vendors to be able to bid on the portion of the roofs at Canavan that are shingle roofs that most any roofing contractor can handle and don't require the specialization that we use when we do flat roofs. So there are many sections of the Canavan roof that are shingle roofs, and by having that engineered differently for this project, it's going to help with some of the cost efforts. The last thing that I have on is the fuel pumps at transportation are from the 90s. They are aging and becoming problematic. So we're going to replace those. And this is kind of a two-part project. There is a software upgrade that has to go along with this project, and that monitors all of our vehicles and the consumption of fuel. And it's a great way to track our usage. So there's two parts of that project as well. You don't have to vote on that portion tonight. I just wanted to include the board in on things that we talk about in our facility committee meeting that Aaron canceled this month. So, any questions about any of those topics?
So I was sad I couldn't remote into your facility meeting from South Carolina where it was 80 degrees, me drinking my coffee while you guys were about 10 degrees. But
we had it all worked out ahead of time.
Yes, we did.
Get to do it. So.
The pool, we're just playing accounting cleanup.
That's correct, yes. And Dave, actually, you're going to hear this again because Dave said he was going to go over this with you guys too. But yes. And so in that light, now that I know that that's how we do it, we've also discussed we have a project with the rec center coming up this summer. So you will also see later in the summer a move of money to accomplish that roof project that we're going to be doing with the rec center. So now that I'm aware of how we have to do that. We'll do that correctly this time.
But it is good that the pool project came in well below what we had planned, so that's a good thing.
Yes. Thank you.
And Dave, I know we have facilities Thursday. I didn't know if you had an update or we're waiting till next month. Okay, that's what I thought. I'd like to invite Chris back up. She's going to be sharing about the curriculum committee meeting that we had, I think, just last week, as well as the policy committee, which includes a policy on here for vote for the board for a first reading.
Yeah, curriculum committee I'll do first because it's a little bit quicker, but we went over the portrait of an educator with the curriculum committee and got some good feedback and some good questions about how we'll implement that committee, and I know Joe and Becky were there. Basically, it was the same things I shared tonight, but really, again, another chance to get some good feedback from our parents about how we were going to implement the portrait, and maybe how we were going to use it in evaluation. So those were some of the things I was able to share. We have a teacher evaluation process already in place, so we're not going to change our evaluation process, but we were able to ask some clarifying questions. Then in terms of policy, I just want to share a little bit more, so this will take a little bit longer, but tonight on our board agenda, we have the first reading of a policy on religious instruction release time. And I want to share with everyone, when we have first readings, what we do is we keep them for the board only, and then if the board approves them for a first reading, we then release them for the public to look at. So we want to make sure the board even approves them as a first reading before we release them. But I wanted to provide some clarification from a historic perspective, which is what we spent policy committee talking about. We met for the specific purpose of reviewing this policy, and we discussed the historical piece of this. So the religious instruction release time policy was first presented to the district in 2014. That's when districts were first able to pass such a policy. And our board chose not to adopt that policy. Then in 2016, it was presented again for boards in a revised version, and our board chose not to adopt that policy. But by April 9th, 2025, House Bill 8 comes into effect, so our board has no choice but to adopt some form of a policy because that law is in effect that requires school districts to adopt a policy authorizing students to be excused from school to attend religious release time courses in religious instruction. So we worked really hard at that policy committee meeting with our attorney to see what things we can put into place that meet the legal requirements, but also provide the best protections for our students in the board's opinion. So I just want to clarify what this policy has in it for the board, just to summarize. So in terms of who's responsible for what, in our policy, parents and guardians must provide written consent for their child to attend. The students are responsible for any missed schoolwork. The sponsoring entity must maintain attendance records and make them available to the district. And obviously that would allow us to know if the student signed out for attendance, if they did in fact attend. They must assume liability for the student during release time. Our policy indicates that the entity must transport students based on Ohio Revised Code definition of transportation, and no district funds will be expended for transportation. They must provide background checks at no cost to the district for all employees and volunteers and any new employees and volunteers. And they must agree to not provide materials, snacks, clothing, candy, trinkets, or other items for students to return to school. In terms of the district responsibilities are to identify a time, and the policy committee determined that the best time for our district would be lunch and recess. So in the policy, it indicates that students can't be released from any core curriculum subject or any subject with state-approved learning standards. So that would be lunch and recess. We also specified that it's limited to 37 days per school year, which is about one time a week, and 45 minutes inclusive of travel. So it's one or the other. So whether it's 45 minutes or the time that lunch and recess takes. But it has to be both of those, if that makes sense. One or the other, meaning if lunch and recess are 30 minutes, that's the total time. If lunch and recess are 45 minutes, then that's the total time. But it can't be longer than 45 minutes, and it can only be during lunch and recess. And then students won't be released if there aren't background checks provided, or if the background checks indicate an offense that you wouldn't be allowed to work in a school for. And then finally, I think I want to thank the policy committee. We worked really hard on trying to implement things that would help our students and apply for our district. So I think, again, I just think this policy committee worked really hard to try not to implement this policy when we had the option. But now that House Bill 8 doesn't allow for that, I think we did the best we could with what we had. So I don't know if there's any questions from policy committee. Mr. Sale.
I just wanted to add that something that's been important to previous boards in the district is the importance of students' academic time during the school day. And that's a big part of the reason why in the past, no matter what organization would have access for release time, there was a feeling of wanting to have our students stay within our buildings. And we've worked, and I think Dr. Kwolek for working with the committee to sculpt a policy to try and continue to meet those expectations while meeting the requirements of the law.
Yes, as a member of the board in 2016 and policy committee, when that came up, that was it. We want to keep our students in our buildings for all day if we can, but as it has been mentioned, this is no longer a choice for us. It is a mandate, and I believe everyone will see when you read that policy. Dr. Kwolek mentioned about the background checks, and that is going to be more work for our staff, but that shows how important it is for us to make sure that the people that they're being released to do have those background checks equal to what they would be if they were an employee of the district. So we do appreciate your efforts with that, and the rest of the committee for working with that to maintain our priorities for our students. Thank you.
Yeah. I talked to Dr. Kwolek this afternoon. My biggest concern is that we get to see the release form and to make sure that there is a place that if a child has allergies or some medical condition, that LifeWise is made aware so there is no medical emergency if the child is not on our school property, like the big peanut allergy. Because that could be life-threatening if they don't have the necessary materials to treat that child. So, and then my other question is, if they go over the time limit, how many times are we going to allow that to happen before we say, you can't do this anymore? That would be my other concern.
And that wouldn't be policy, those would be our guidelines. So the board's approving the policy, and then we'll work through the guidelines.
I think it's also important to remember that the parents have to give permission to release their students. So some of it's no different than if a parent signs their child out for a medical appointment or, a family emergency or funeral or something. If the parent signs them out and our liability ends then, once the parent signs them out. So in terms of like an emergency with an allergy, that's not our liability because the parent gave permission for them to go do that. So yes, we don't want that to happen, but we're kind of limited into where our liability and all of that ends, unfortunately.
And that's stated specifically in House Bill 8 and in our policy.
Great. Thank you. And that's all I have for this evening.
Mr. Chambers, Treasurer's Communications.
Hello, how are you all doing? Right now, revenues that the district had are over $47 million since July. These include property tax, school district income, school foundation monies, and other income from the state as well as from local agencies here. We've had $53 million in expenditures, which include personal service and benefits, also purchase services, supplies, and other expenditures. And currently our ending balance, which includes encumbrances, are $25.2 million. What we have with our revenues, as I say, $47 million. This is 50% of what we anticipate based on our November 5-year forecast. If you recall, the November 5-year forecast was the first to implement the passage of the levy. And so we are starting to receive levy monies. That goes with our real property taxes at $27 million. We have received roughly at this time, January 31st, $900,000 of the new levy. And that has given us 8.3% above where we were at this time last year. We also received $10.8 million in foundation monies. This is 2.7% above last year at this time. This includes casino revenue monies. We have received the largest portion of casino revenue monies we've received. This is our last payment to us for the year. We're just over $400,000. So for those of us who are thinking that the casino revenues are really giving us a lot of monies, it's not. $400,000 does not last the district. I checked it out. It's roughly 3% of what the state has given us right now, but at the end of the year, it'll be roughly 1.5% of the entire state budget to us. So, speaking about state budget, the governor put out his budget. Did you know that? And with the governor's budget, we read it differently than what other people read it. And when we were with the tax budget hearing, we were under the impression that the governor's budget is going to cut the district 3.1% in the first year and also 1.5% in the second year of his budget, and then also reduce the guarantees to school districts. What we've heard since then is the governor is going to keep the base cost the same for public schools, increase voucher payments, and then reduce the guarantee to school districts. So that decrease to the school district itself, I received a notification from OASBO, my state professional development, and they basically stated that the school district will lose $300,000 the first year, another $400,000 the second year. So a total of $1 million because you add the $300,000 twice and the $400,000 in the second year. So that's $1 million that the district is anticipating to lose based upon the governor's budget. But as you may know, his budget goes to the House, then goes to the Senate, or vice versa. And then it goes to a collaborative meeting between the two. And so by June 30th, we may know where the school district lies itself based upon the collaboration between the House and the Senate upon the governor's budget. Our expenditures, as was stated, we've spent roughly $53 million so far. This is 57% of our anticipated expenditures based upon the 5-year forecast. We have spent $33 million in personnel services. This is 8% above the 23-24 expenditures, but we have to remember 23-24 we had 27 payments, which reduced the payments over the life of the over each payment that goes out since we had 27. And so if you look at the last time we had 26 payments, which was the year before that, we're only 2.85% above that time. And during those 2 years, we've had increases going forward. Our benefits, $12 million in benefit. This is down from last year, and that's totally based upon the reductions that we made here at the end of last year, because of the precaution and also because of the additional reductions, we were looking at ourselves to get us through the 28 year. And then finally, you have our other expenditures. This is down from last year, 5.1%. The other expenditures include, as I say, purchase services, supplies, and capital. Our investment expenditures. We're looking good with our investments, even though we have less investments. And the reason we have less investments is because between December and January, we received very little money as is in revenue. We have no property taxes coming in at that time. Our state taxes are very minimal. The last time the state tax really came in would have been in November because we had the foundation monies, plus we had the property tax allocation monies. So that's homestead rollbacks that come in from the settlements itself. But talking about our investments, we're up $347,000 compared to the prior year. And so 1.2 million overall at this point. And this talks about where we are with our monies. You could see January is a low. It's always the low. The last 3 years, it's been the low. We receive our property taxes the end of January, the beginning of February in each year. That's why you see the sudden rise in February. We usually get the most money from the county auditor in February with the settlement coming in March. So when we talk about our true days cash, this is what we're looking at. We're below 100 days in true days cash. This is the first time we've been below 100 days since January of 2014. And if you know, in 2013 was our last new levy. So January would have been the first collections of the what is now our substitute levy. But again, this is the lowest since that point. And over the 11 years since, we've not hit this low. And finally, there was a question about our sales tax. Sales tax dollars are collected on businesses in all of Medina County. And what they do is they send these monies to the state, and the state sends them back to the county itself. The county distributes the sales tax for the school districts based upon enrollment. The county treasurers have sat down since 2009 and did enrollment numbers based upon what the state has, based upon open enrollment going out and coming in from each of the districts, and also based upon court placements and any other placement in each of the districts to get a number for the county. And in November, this is given to the county itself, and then the county gets an estimate from the state on what they're going to be collecting in the following year, and puts out a estimated distribution for the entire year based upon that state number. And then on a quarterly basis, the state returns the money, or I should say, the county returns the money to the school districts. So in January, in April, in July, and in October? I'm thinking. Yes, October. July, September, October, yes. We received monies. And this year, well, I should say last year, 2024, was the highest amount of sales tax money we received. It was $4.4 million. And that has grown from, I believe, our first full year of collection was roughly $2.6 million. So this is also coming in here for 2025 is the first year that Medina City Schools is the largest enrolled school district in the county. It has always been Brunswick, but Brunswick has had a down year over the past few years in enrollment, and so Medina City Schools is now the largest. Any question on sales tax or anything else?
Yeah, I have two questions. The sales tax, when does that go off? I mean, I know it was a there was a time frame?
I believe it was a 30-year tax, so 2037 is the
Okay.
last year for collection, I believe.
Okay, and then my second question is, who does this money run through, the auditor or the treasurer, and does that office take a cut?
Okay, that I do not know if they take a cut. I do know that the treasurer is always the person in the county that collects monies, whether it be from the state or from the federal government or whatnot. The treasurer is always the collector of monies. The auditor is always the distributor of monies. So if that gives you any
Okay.
information that you need.
And when the voters approved that sales tax increase, our district eliminated our permanent improvement.
Yes, we had a permanent improvement levy that passed, I believe, the year before the sales tax, maybe 2 years before the sales tax. The district let it run out, and we have not gone back to the taxpayers for a permanent improvement levy.
Because we're using the sales tax
Correct.
dollars in lieu of that. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who comes to Medina County and spends their money so we can get a portion
And
of that.
yes. And finally, I was asked about where you could find information to put a link on here. So if you do go to our financials on board docs, you'll see the link is located on visit our website. If I had a pointer, I'd point it out. Do I have a pointer on here? So it's in the blue, www.medinabees.org. You could, I believe it's a control and a click, and that should get you right to my portion of the website itself. Any questions on that? Okay, I'm going to move on here to other items on the agenda. The first item that I have are supplemental appropriations. The supplemental appropriations are, as Ryan said, the first one is the monies for the Recreation Center Fund. Now, we have to say the city has a Recreation Center Fund and the school district has a Recreation Center Fund. These monies do not get put into each other. So we work with the city on a monthly basis. Ryan works with the city on a quarterly basis. I work with the city to reconcile our monies in this rec center fund. And so when we talk about the rec center fund, it is our portion of the rec center with our funds to the rec center. So the monies that are going into the rec center fund, you have, hey Craig, could you hit on the supplemental permit? Thank you. You have the $423,000. This is to appropriate the monies so we can make the transfer that we are going to be talking about. Then you have your class of 27 and class of 28, and these monies are to make available to pay for additional fundraiser costs that they had. The 300 fund is a field trip fund for Canavan. This is to allow for new students that came to the building because they based their budget on last year's numbers, so they want to increase it for new students. And then you have your 400 school safety grant. This is the last of the school safety grant monies. You could see that the monies came in 2019, and this is the last of the monies that are being used. And we're looking to zero that fund out and use those monies for Navigate 360 for safety purposes. Questions on that? Okay, the fund-to-fund transfer, as Ryan spoke about, this is coming out of the sales tax. And the reason we're moving the monies out of the sales tax and throwing it into the rec center is, one, we have to track any monies going in and out of the sales tax. We provide a reconciliation to the county on a yearly basis. So this is a quick and easy reconciliation for us because it's one giant pot of money as opposed to having different purchase orders going out of the Recreation Center Fund. And then I have two more. You have a depository agreement. This is a 5-year depository agreement with Huntington Bank. Huntington is our depository lender for our vendor services, our accounts payable. We have Westfield for our payroll services. I like having 2 different banks for payables and payroll. It makes it a lot easier to reconcile. We also have Star Ohio, which Star Ohio is basically every school district's, what would you call it, pot of liquidation. So every school district uses them to liquidate down into other funding organizations. And most of our monies from the county, from the state, go into Star, and we move those down into Huntington. We move those down into Westfield. So, but we need to list a depository for our funds. We can't list Star Ohio, so we do list Huntington. And then finally, you have resolutions. You have resolutions at the end of the agenda. These are for purposes to appease the state. Before 2022, we were able to challenge increases in valuation or decreases in valuation, whichever way you want to look at it. We were able to challenge these through a legal counsel of ours, and this basically allows for challenges now where the sales of the property were much more than the valuation of the property, and the county auditor did not increase the valuation based on that sale. So that's the reason for these 4 challenges, and I believe that we have to now notify the individual property owners of these resolutions and the possible approval by the board. Once the property owner is notified and they are given the chance to come before the board for it. And again, that's new. Prior to 22, it was just a challenge by the board itself. And the first notification to the property owner was when the Board of Revision wrote to both the school district and the property owner that there's the challenges out there. So what this challenge does, though, is if the county auditor does not increase the valuation to the sales of the property, every other business is paying a larger portion to the school district for that property or for their properties. So it evens out what should be paid to the school district. It doesn't mean any more money is going to be coming to the school district because we're challenging the valuation. It just means that the businesses in the district will be more in line with where their property values are as compared to what they are paying. So, does that make sense? Okay.
We challenged a couple businesses, like I think maybe 2 years ago.
Last year.
Did we win those? Or?
I would have to talk with our legal advisor on that because they are handling challenges from 2023 still.
Okay.
And 2024 has not been something that I'm aware of yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. As soon as Mr. Chambers sits down, we are at board communications, and I will start to my right with Ms. Pritchard.
Okay. January Student of the Month at the Career Center was Lauren Catlick from the teaching professions. Medina Student of the Month for February is Jake Cray and Eleanor Kristen. Noah Abernathy was Main Street's Medina Student of the Year for all the work that he did. Debate team had 9 state qualifiers. 10 students competed in the regional Just Right competition at Cloverleaf, and 7 will move on to the state competition. Maisie Getz, a Claggett 7th grader, was the winner of the Run for Fun t-shirt design competition. Congrats to Audrey Brown, who's a 6th grade Root student who was chosen as Times Kid of the Month for her hygiene project. I got to see the Claggett production of Beetlejuice, which was just amazing. Beetlejuice was played by Leo Smith in his very first role ever, and Addie Cole was Lydia, and all the performers were spectacular. Spice was a while ago, but again, a fine performance by all. Last Thursday was a twofer. I got to watch and listen to all 3 orchestra high schools, Claggett and Root, and then I got to go and watch the gymnastics team compete in the GCC final event. Continuing in sports, the Claggett girls 7th grade basketball team defeated the Root girls by 2 points to win the GCC championships. Olivia Clanick became the all-time women's leading scorer in the county this just a couple weeks ago, and the longer she goes, the higher that total will be. And she was also named the MVP in the GCC. I watched Claggett wrestling on a Friday evening, and I'm happy to report we have 2 girls participating in wrestling. I hope more girls come out. Bowling, we are the GCC champs, and we qualified for districts. Ella Bomer qualified for the state diving championship. Kellen Morford won the 100-meter freestyle and set a new school record and finished 2nd in the 200 free to qualify for state. Brady Ryba also qualified in 2 events, the 500 free and 100 back. Madeline Russell was 2nd in 2 events, the 50 and 100 free, and will move on. Key Sports named Medina High School Gym as the best place to watch a game, which is quite an honor. The Medina County Art Show starts March 3rd, and there will be pictures, paintings all around the square. Medina Hall of Fame is March 14th at Westfield, and you can purchase your tickets online. And I like to note 2 passings. Longtime teacher Jan Leatherman, who taught at Fenn and also was director of reading instruction, passed away recently. And just last week, the founder of the Booster Club, he headed up the campaign for Duke Stadium and was a spotter. Dr. Bill Tuchek passed away, and his service will be, calling hours are Friday, and the service will be on Saturday. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Nichols.
I second everything you said.
Okay.
No, I actually really don't have any updates. I mean, I was at the curriculum committee, and there was a lot of good discussion on, oh, hey, maybe we should add this, and then after a little bit of talking, we found, hey, these 6 groups that we had already laid out kind of cover the topics that kept being brought up. So that's right in line with Ms. Qualick saying that Medina has, 8 or 10, and that's what they always want to put up. But, the assignment says 6. So we always find a way to fit them in those boxes and get everything that we want out of that. But yeah, you guys don't want to hear me. That's all I got.
Mrs. Parkhurst. And we can come back to you if we have to.
Thank you. So I serve as a legislative liaison for OSBA as our board member, and I sent an email to all of you because OSBA is going to start having monthly updates, legislative updates. This month has been canceled for February because next Monday they're going to have a webinar sponsored. It'll be sponsored by OSBA, OASBO, and BASA to talk about the governor's budget. So if you should have received an email, I think today. I encourage you, if you're able to sign up for that. I've already signed up for that, but if you need any more information about that, let me know. But hopefully we'll learn some more about what is planned in the governor's budget. One thing they did say that I just wanted to share here also is they are really wanting school boards to advocate for public schools, to share with our community members the need for awareness about public education and funding. And as Mr. Chambers mentioned, the potential of $1 million loss in the budget as it stands right now, what that would mean to our district. We just passed a levy for funding, and we were facing deficits if that did not pass. And now we're looking at an additional cut of our funds potentially here. So it's important for us as a school board to make sure our community knows what we do with our funds, which we do every month in our financial reports, how important all sources of funding are. And I encourage our community members to reach out to our legislators as well and let them know what the funding means to our district and how important it is to fund our programs. The great students we had up here presenting tonight is illustrative of what we do with that money. We educate kids, and we do a pretty good job of it. So we need to make sure we keep that funding coming. So thank you.
Mrs. Smoyer.
Thank you. All right, since the last meeting that we've had, we had the pancake breakfast at the high school, and that was a very big success. We had a lineup, and it was amazing how many people attended. So hopefully that was a very good fundraiser for the foundation. Otherwise, I attended the Partnership Council meeting. That was always enlightening, what's going on in the town of Medina as well as outside of it, and listening to all the PTO presidents who are in attendance, and they all work together, giving each other ideas on things that they can do with their schools and what they can do for fundraisers and so forth. So I always enjoy that one. Also enjoyed Spice. So lots of great talent at our high school. Just I'm blown away sometimes. But the one thing I want to really talk about is I was reminded this weekend about how our staff, our employees, our teachers take the time out of their own personal time to attend their children's or their students, not their own children's, but their students' activities outside of this. I was reminded only because, and I needed to be reminded, but Mr. Lucker, the band director, can't even get my words out here. The band director, he attended an extracurricular activity that my daughter is in. It is not a school-related activity. It is called Winter Guard, and he and his wife, who is also now teaching as well, and their son came to it. And we saw this as parents. We saw him come in, and we're like, wow, we've never seen him in attendance, and this isn't something that he needs to be at. But I went over to him, thanked him for coming in to see the kids, because there are several of our Medina band kids that perform in this. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to see what they do. And that's just heartwarming. But it reminded me of other times in the past that other teachers have attended their students' activities outside of it. So bless you, teachers, for taking that time, because they are their kids. They take care of them just as well, and they care about them. It's heartwarming. So I just wanted to thank all the teachers for you guys taking your time out of your own personal time, and that is very little, and I know that, but to attend everything. So thank you.
All right. I don't have a lot. One of the first things, though, is I wanted to just kind of get a straw poll, if you will, about if you guys all remember Becky and Amy had, through the policy committee, had brought up the self-evaluation for school boards and some policy updates that it looks like we have on for second reading here. in discussions, think it would be a good idea to have a work session so we could kind of all review it and go over this and get this process started so we're all, and set some goals for the next year. Just kind of wondering if everybody would be up for maybe a work session before the next board meeting. We'd just meet a little bit earlier and then we'd have the regular board meeting. So think about it and I'll get in touch with everybody and we can kind of work that out.
Mr. West, are you,
Oh.
you're thinking then March 18th?
Yeah.
Just maybe
Yeah.
5 o'clock or 4?
Yeah, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then Mr. Chambers and Mr. Sable would probably be there as well, too, as a collaborative effort.
Okay, thank you.
So, but I'll get in touch with everybody and we can hash that out. Other than that, I'm going to get on my soapbox just a little bit and encourage all of our voters and citizens in our district to contact our elected officials and help us advocate for our district and our students in this district. You know, since even being on the board a short time, I've noticed there's fewer and fewer things that we as a district get to decide for our students. They're being dictated to us, or we're giving no choices. We have to do these things rather than leaving it up to our district to decide what's best for our students. So I would encourage all of our members of our district to contact both our state and our federal officials to help us advocate for our students in our district on all levels, funding, policies, etc. And you know, at the state, that's Representative Sharon Ray and Senator Mark Romanchuk, and at the federal level, that's Representative Max Miller and our new senators, Senator Bernie Moreno and Senator John Husted, who used to be our lieutenant governor. But this is so important. You know, we have to follow what state law and federal law is dictated, but our voters of our district can help us advocate for our students and what's best for our district. So I just wanted to put that out there. And that's all I have. All right, we're at that portion of the meeting for public comment. And it looks like we have a couple people that would like to speak. Excuse me. So I'm going to read the instructions for public comment, and then I will call up those persons. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to comment in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After all those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask the public comment from other attendees. Please state your name, address, and affiliation. Please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question the board members individually. Craig, could we? Yep, thank you. Our first speaker is Karen Thorne. Mrs. Thorne, whenever you're ready.
Hello. Thank you, board members, for allowing me to speak tonight. I have been following the release time for religious. My name is Karen Thorne. I'm at 3677 Falcon Ridge Drive in Medina. My husband and I live within the Medina City School District. I'm a graduate. Our daughters are also graduates. So I would like to thank the policy committee. I have been following the release time for religious instruction drama within the state for quite a while and have been vocal in my wishes for what Medina would create for a policy for the Medina City Schools. I feel the policy committee has worked diligently in creating their policy that meets the criteria demanded in House Bill 8, which they didn't have the opportunity to to make their own local decisions. But it also honors the mission of the Medina City Schools, which is the education of our children. I do ask that you hold any religious organization accountable to provide their program within the limits that you've set forth. And I also ask that you do not actively support any religious entity coming into the school, either by distributing literature, putting notifications on the website, or any other means. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oops. Our next speaker, and if I butcher your last name, I apologize. Michelle Miller? Are you sure? All right, thank you. How about Anne Bruno? Are you good too? All right, thank you. Bobby Foy?
I'm good also. Thank you, and thank you for the board and your acting.
All right, thank you. And Elise Thomas?
Hello, I am a student at Medina High School. I'm a junior. I live at 5055 Morningsong Drive. I am the president of the Best Buddies Club at Medina High School. I'm here today to hopefully see it get approved to be a school-sponsored club. But I would like to speak on what Best Buddies is. It is an international organization. There are 3,535 chapters within 50 states and 46 countries. It is a club for people with and without disabilities, and it promotes inclusion in schools for people with different abilities. Our chapter so far has really helped people with IDD and helps them feel more included. They sit together with peers at lunch. There is a more positive interest in people who have different abilities in our high school. Students with IDD know more peers on a personal level. Students are learning how to advocate for others. Students are also learning how to interact with people who have different abilities, and there's more people taking notice of the club outside of the high school, which I feel is really important. So I hope it gets approved, and inclusion matters for everyone. So thank you so much.
Mr. Chambers, your action items, when you're ready.
Yes, if it please the board. Item number 1, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the January 2025 Treasurer's Financial Report. Item number 2, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following supplemental to the 24-25 permanent appropriations. We have our sales tax, our class of 27 and class of 28, our field trip for Canavan and school safety grant. Item 3, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfer. This is from the sales tax fund to the rec center fund. And item number 4, it's recommended the Board of Education approve Huntington National Bank to be designated as a depository for the funds of the Medina City School District for the time period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2030.
I would entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's action items.
I'll make the motion.
I would
I'll
hear a
second.
second. Mrs. Parkhurst and Mr. Nichols. Are there any questions or comments? Anybody? I'm hearing none. Mr. Chambers, when you're ready.
Yes, Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Smoyer?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable, your action items.
Action item number 1 is donations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations. We have a couple larger donations on the agenda this evening from the athletic boosters. The first is a $2,000 donation, which is much appreciated to support activities and expenses having to do with student mental health through Hope Squad. So this is an area where our athletic boosters are helping in aiding students even beyond our athletes, as Hope Squad touches so many students beyond athletics. In addition to that is their annual donation of $50,000, which keeps our athletes looking sharp. That's for updating athletic uniforms per the athletic uniform cycle, which I believe is a 3-year cycle in the various sports to update their uniforms. Number 2 is policies. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the second reading and adoption of the following new and revised policies and bylaws. All of these were presented to the board last month for a first reading. The majority, if not all of these policies, are minor updates to language. Number 3 is a policy for consideration. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the first reading of Policy 5223. A first reading is not an approval of the policy by the board, but it's to release it for public review. It would then be presented, if approved tonight, to the board for approval next month. I know we've already heard about the release time for religious instruction quite a bit tonight, but a couple things I did want to emphasize. In the past, this was an optional policy. It is no longer an optional policy per legislation. And as you've heard this evening, parameters are put into place per the policy to ensure our academic rigor, including when release time can occur, and making sure that students in Medina City schools continue to receive core curriculum, not only through the major content areas, but also through our arts and physical education programs as well, which we value very much. Number 4, it is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the resolution authorizing the Medina City School District's membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association for the 25-26 school year. This is something we do annually. To be quite frank, there are no other state organizations, so this allows our students to participate at the regional and state levels in athletic competitions. In addition to that, many leagues require that you be a part of the OHSAA in order to be members of their leagues. Number 5 is a memorandum of understanding. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the memorandums of understanding between the Medina City School District and the following colleges and universities: Cuyahoga Community College, Kent State University, Lorain Community College, the University of Akron. These are all for the College Credit Plus program for the 25-26 school year. This, again, is done annually and allows for set pricing and working with the universities for College Credit Plus. Number 6 is a proposal for Taylor Consulting. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the proposal with Taylor Consulting Group for the evaluation, design, and quality observation services for roof replacement at Ella Canavan Elementary School. So this is similar to when we would recommend hiring an architect to help us with a design of a facility. They bring in the expertise to ensure and to manage a very expensive roofing project. Number 7 is field trips. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trips in compliance with Policy 2340. There aren't any new field trips to the district on this list. These are trips that have been taken in the past and include state competition as well as spring training camps for some of our athletic programs. Number 8 is approval of new clubs, Best Buddies. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve Best Buddies as a district-sponsored club at Medina High School and Claggett Middle School. I appreciate the passion tonight for the Best Buddies organization. They've been working very hard through our process of establishing a student club and organization, including working with student council, finding a staff mentor or advisor, as well as establishing themselves over a period of years within the high school to ensure that they're an organization that will continue once board approved. And number 9 is a service agreement for Branching Minds. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the service agreement with Branching Minds for all platforms, licenses, and technology for programs for P through 5 students in all buildings. This is a 5-year contract to the amount of just over $151,000 and will be paid for through federal funding using 516 IDEA grant funds. So we'd like to see that federal funding continue, as this is essential programming through MTSS in helping our students across the district in monitoring things like their social behavior and academic progress. And number 10 is personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion and submission of all required paperwork to Mr. Shields, Director of Human Resources. We do have a few retirements on the agenda, and I'd like to mention, just so nobody's being left out or thinks they are, that we changed the way we recognize our retirees a year ago, and we'll be doing that this spring, where we can recognize and celebrate all of our retirees together and thank them for their service. Thank you.
I would entertain a motion for superintendent action items H1 through 10.
I'll make a motion to accept superintendent action items 1 through 10.
Thank you, Mrs. Pritchard.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
I know that Ohio High School doesn't charge like a membership fee, but isn't it true they charge $100 a sport in order for us to enter tournaments?
There are tournament fees, correct. I don't know
Okay.
specifically what those are.
I think it's
though.
$100. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes. I just wanted to remind the community the College Credit Plus programs are something the state passed a decade ago, I think, that we're required to offer, and it does help our students attending to college earn college credit while they're in high school at just Ohio State universities and colleges. Many people think that is free, but it does come with a cost. It does cost the district, and which essentially then does cost the taxpayer. So while it is free to the individual family or student, there is a cost associated with that. Secondly, I want to thank Ms. Pizitka and her department on all the work they do with MTSS. I know that we have Branching Minds already for grades 6 through 12, and I am excited to see this for pre-K through 5th grade for our elementary school and preschool. So I think that will be very beneficial for their department to have. And then I want to thank our student for coming in to support the organization, Best Buddies. It was great to see you. So thanks for coming to support that. And thanks for getting that started and working with our finding an advisor. I know it's a lot of work to do that. So thank you for your efforts. Your passion shows through. So thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers, when you're ready.
Yes, Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Moyer.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Thank you.
And as a separate action item is the recommendation for our portrait of an educator as presented this evening. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the portrait of an educator content as well as the graphic information shared tonight, so we can go ahead and implement that, especially heading into the hiring season.
I would entertain a motion to accept action item I-1, the portrait of an educator.
I would entertain a motion for action item I-1. Making the motion.
All right,
My
very good.
apologies.
I'll second.
Thank you, both of you. Any questions or comments? I'm excited. I read through it, and I think it's going to be a good thing, and it goes right along this wall. Maybe we can have it on that wall. So, nothing more. Mr. Chambers?
Yes, Ms. Moyer.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chambers, it looks like you have four of them coming up, so I'll just let you go.
Yes, it is recommended that the Board of Education file an original complaint with the county auditor challenging the determination of the total value of property located at 870 North Court Street, Medina, Ohio, parcel 028-19B-09096, and recorded owner JP Morgan Chase Bank, National Association.
I'll make a motion to approve this action item.
Thank you.
Second.
Mrs. Parkhurst, thank you. Mr. Nichols, any questions? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Ms. Moyer.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, it is recommended that the Board of Education file an original complaint with the county auditor challenging the determination of the total value of property located at 2777 Pearl Road, Medina, Ohio, parcel number 026 06B 01005, and recorded owner CG2 LLC.
Do I hear a motion in a second?
I will make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Ms. Moyer.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Thank you. It is recommended that the Board of Education file an original complaint with the county auditor challenging the determination of the total value of property located at 400 West Smith Road, Medina, Ohio, parcel number 028-19C-05386, and recorded owner Cadet 23 LLC.
Do I have a motion then?
I will make a motion.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst. Second, anybody?
Yeah, I got you again. I'll
All
second.
right, thank you, Mr. Nichols. Any questions or comments from anybody? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Ms. Moyer.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Thank you. And finally, it is recommended that the Board of Education file an original complaint with the county auditor challenging the determination of the total valuation of property located at 950 Lake Road, Medina, Ohio, parcel number 028-19C-17-016, and recorded owner 950 Lake Manufacturing, LLC.
I'll make a motion to accept this.
Thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Any questions or comments, anybody?
I do know this is a lot of work for our treasurer's office, but I do think it is important and valuable that we do this.
I agree. Mr. Chambers, when you're ready.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Ms. Moyer.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to have a motion for moving to executive session.
I will make a motion to move to executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, or compensation of a public employee or official, to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, discussion with the board's legal counsel of disputes involving the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action, preparation for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and for matters required to be confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst and Ms. Pritchard. There will be no action taken afterwards. Mr. Chambers, when you're ready.
Yes. Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Moyer.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to the regular board meeting, and have a safe trip home, and keep warm.